After leaving Jasper National Park, we continued north and began the next part of our journey on the official ALCAN highway. Yet almost immediately after reaching the ALCAN, we diverted off of it to the town of Chetwynd in order to check out the life-size wood carvings on display throughout the town. Since 2005, Chetwynd has hosted an international chainsaw carving championship, and many of the entries are still on display. The competition takes place each June, and the carvers only have 35 hours to complete their work. The competitors are given a 40 by 50 inch by 8 foot tall piece of wood, and they can make anything they want, but it has to be completely made with a chainsaw. It was amazing to see their work, and the intricacies they create are so inspiring. Our next interesting stop, to stretch our legs for a bit, was at the Fort Nelson Heritage Museum. This museum was the life work of Merle Brown, the museum's first curator. In 1957, when the ALCAN Highway was just a trail, Merle worked as a mechanic for the Canadian Army. Seeing so many items being thrown away, Merle started collecting them, and by the 1970s, he had collected so much stuff that it was turned into a museum. And the items on display are extremely wide-ranging. Everything from telephones to a Zamboni. We thought it was well worth the visit. The next day, we found ourselves at Munchu Lake. All of the places we originally intended to camp were overrun with people, so we ended up splurging on a site at the Northern Rockies Lodge. Go ahead, whenever you're ready. We swam and watched the float planes come and go, all the while enjoying the sun and beautiful scenery. We were oh so glad the universe pushed us this way. It was an extremely relaxing and enjoyable day at the lakeside. We're on a hike to go find the old ALCAN Highway, which is high up on a cliff. But first we have to find the trail through this riverbed. We are on the quarter-mile boardwalk, walking into the hot spring. We're at the Liard Hot Springs. It's so cool. This section of water is a little cooler than the others. I'm gonna go over here and see what's in this little area. We're going exploring. Water's definitely cooler in here. So apparently there's some snails that live here in this ecosystem, that only live here in this ecosystem, and we're not supposed to touch the sides at all. And to end the day, we took a quick hike at Smith River Falls. And one benefit to walking these stairs was that we could snack on fresh raspberries along the way. We couldn't get very close to these falls, but even from a distance, they were huge. The next day was a big milestone. We crossed into the Yukon. We are at the Signpost Forest, where there's rumored to be over 80,000 signs, and all visitors are encouraged to bring their own sign and post it anywhere they want. The Signpost Forest originated in 1942, when the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers erected a mileage post here while building the ALCAN highway. A homesick soldier named Carl Lindley added his hometown sign to the Army signpost and started a time-honored tradition. People from all over the world continue to add their own hometown signs, and the docent at the Visitor Center said that the number of signs is expected to reach over 100,000 this year.
People be like, "Are you cold?" No. Here. I'm going to put a toilet seat.
We made one last stop during our travels this day. We love seeing waterfalls, so of course we took the opportunity to visit Rancheria Falls. It was a short yet pleasant hike to stretch our legs from the drive. Continuing north, we reached the town of Whitehorse, where we immediately set out on a 5K walking route around the town. We stopped at the fish ladder near the head of the Yukon River. The salmon journeyed 2,500 miles to Whitehorse from the Bering Sea, and they don't eat anything during their entire journey upstream. All of their energy must come from their fat stores. This fish ladder is considered to be the longest in the world at 1,182 feet. We were here during the salmon season, but interestingly enough, they only expected 100 salmon to reach this point this year. During our visit, only 8 had reached this milestone. However, by the time I created this video, after the season was over, the total was 164. On the way back into town, after crossing a bridge over the Yukon River, we briefly walked around another historic site in the area, the SS Klondike, a steam-powered paddle wheeler. Early the next morning, we ventured up the Yukon River along Miles Canyon. The canyon used to be a series of whitewater rapids, prior to the dam that was constructed downstream at the fish ladder. During the Klondike Gold Rush in the late 1800s, boats with freight were required to portage around the rapids because their risk of capsizing was so great. A horse-drawn tramway service was built in 1897. The 4-mile-long rail tracks were made from the plentiful lumber in the area, and the tram wheels made specifically to roll on the logs. During the main rush of the Klondike Stampede, prospectors paid 3 cents a pound to portage their goods. The next part of our journey north took us through a lot of road construction on the Klondike Highway. In this part of the country, there are only a few months out of the year where road construction is possible due to the weather. We could hear a poor soul inside that big pipe using an impact drill. We wondered what type of hearing protection he had available. On the way into Dawson City, we stopped for a visit at Bonanza Creek, where the Klondike Gold Rush began. There are many mining claims in the area and the opportunity to see various artifacts from the region.
That was pretty cool looking.
Yeah, that probably was. Where those tires are going to be.
We took a guided tour of dredge number 4. It is a bucket-lined sluice dredge that was built in the early 1900s at the height of the gold rush. It is 8 stories high and at one time was considered to be the tallest building in the Yukon. It operated 24 hours a day from April through November, only moving forward a half-mile each season. As the largest wooden-hulled dredge in North America, it operated for 46 years and produced 300,000 ounces of gold after mining 65 million cubic yards of gravel. Immediately after leaving the dredge, we drove through Dawson City and onto the ferry across the Yukon River to our camp for the evening. This is kind of crazy! We're on our first ferry with our vehicle, the big truck and the camper, and it's awesome. The ferry is free, and the crossing only takes 7 minutes. This is the only access to the top of the world highway from Canada. After we settled into our campground, we took the ferry back to Dawson City as walk-on passengers. We then spent the evening exploring the town and doing some of the most touristy things the town has to offer, like imbibing in the sour toe cocktail. A shot of whiskey with a mummified human toe in it. The rule is to drink it fast or drink it slow, but your lips must touch the gnarly toe.
I got her. Oh.
Then, after visiting a few of the other local establishments, we took the ferry back to our camp. The next morning, we began our driving adventure on the top of the world highway. It is 175 miles long and connects Dawson City in the Yukon to the Alaska Highway. We had beautiful weather throughout our drive, and the views were tremendous. The road is only open a few months of the year, and the road conditions vary greatly. We are standing at the top of the world highway, 4,400 feet. And as I turn around, you will see the U.S.-Canadian border building. Right there it is, right behind me, that green building. We'll be going through there in a few minutes. And then we reached North America's most northern international border crossing, where we had a very memorable experience. So that border crossing was quite crazy. We were following directions clearly, and it said, wait for the green light. So we were sitting there waiting, and there was never any green light. But then an agent came out, and she waved us through and told us to come up. Well, in between where the green light was supposed to be and where the checkpoint was, there were 2 stop signs, but since she waved us through, we were like, just keep going. Well, we get there and we stop, and she comes out and proceeds to yell at us, like, there were 2 stop signs, 2! You didn't stop at either one of them! And we're like, we were waiting for the green light, there was no green light. She says, there never is any green light. And we're like, well, we're sorry, you waved us through, so we were supposed to continue on. She's like, there were 2 stop signs. You didn't stop at any of them. But then she just took our passports and asked us a couple of questions and waved us through, and here we are. So
Have a nice trip.
Yeah, have a nice trip, she said. So that was pretty crazy, but here we are in Alaska. Yay! We couldn't miss out on a stop into Chicken, Alaska. This town is completely off-grid. It doesn't have any underground sewer, and all of the power comes from generators and solar. We are in Chicken, Alaska, having a beer at the saloon and waiting on our food to come from the Chicken Creek Cafe. The following day, we made it back to the Alaska Highway, where we stopped and planned the next part of our journey north. After battling the giant mosquitoes, we reached the end of the ALCAN Highway. Check out our next episode as we continue north to the Arctic Circle.